And I'll start the recording as well. Okay. YouTube's connecting.
Evan is coming in now.
And we're recording now on Zoom Cloud as well. All right. Everybody's in from the waiting room?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And let's have each of the chairs call their boards to order.
I'll start. Call to order this special meeting of the Eastern Reading and Region 9 Boards of Education. Call to order Easton at 6:32 p.m. on 11/10/2020. Members in attendance: Jeff Parker, Randy Hicks, Gretchen Goldstein, Devin Weibel, and myself. Sorry, I just want to check quickly for Jenny. No. Okay.
Call to order the special meeting of the Reading Board of Education for Tuesday, November 10th. All members are present. Call to order at 6:30 p.m.
All right, and I'll also call to order Region 9 for the special meeting at 6:32 p.m. and all members are present except for Karen. Yes, okay. All right, so we'll move to the first item on the agenda, our second item, sorry, public comment. There are some members of the public, so again, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand or wave in the little picture window there. We ask you to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less and start by giving us your name and address. And ask the other board chairs to help me identify people since we're spanning a couple of tiles here. So any public comment, any members of the public like to comment? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to item number 3, board member comment.
Any members from Easton care to make a comment? Okay.
Same question in Reading. Nope.
And same for Region 9. Anyone in Region 9 wish to comment? No, okay. All right, so then we'll move on to item number 4, discussion and possible action. Item A, candidate appointment for Director of Finance and Operations. Sorry, carried in, thank you. So maybe I'll just recap for board members and the public kind of what we've done so far to date. And then I'd ask Dr. Harrison to maybe give a brief high-level background on the candidate, again, for the public. And then John for any comments from the Joint Negotiations Committee on Contract. And then we'll move forward with motions as the boards choose to nominate or appoint the candidate. So just for and correct me if I missed some of the steps, but I was just jotting down kind of the process that we've gone through to this point, just for public record. The job description for the Director of Finance and Operations was posted. We received several candidates, and Dr. Harrison screened those candidates and provided a shorter list of recommendations to the boards. There was also a meet and greet that was conducted for key administration and board members to meet a finalist candidate. The boards formed a personnel search committee and interviewed one of the final candidates. The joint boards negotiation committees met to negotiate through the contract and elected John as the chair. And now we're at the point where we have a candidate that we would like to move forward for approval or appointment by the boards. So I think those are all the steps. If anybody's any corrections or any additions people would like to make to the steps that we went through. All right. Dr. Harrison, I lost you on my tiles here somewhere.
Here I am.
Sure. Okay. Make sure you're unmuted. There you go. If you don't mind, just at a high level, don't have to go through all the candidates' background, but just as a high level, a sense of the candidate would be helpful. And then we'll go to John for the negotiations committee comments.
Sure. So our candidate is coming to us with several years of experience leading at the central office level as a Chief Operating and Finance Officer. He's currently serving in that position in Hartford Public Schools and managing a total school district budget of about $426 million. He comes to us with school-based experience, having worked in Stamford, in Stratford, and also in Derby. His background also includes work as the Director of Finance and Administration at Yale, and prior to that as an investment banker. Just a sentence or two on his education background. He holds a JD and MBA from Georgetown. He got his bachelor's from Yale and is currently in a MLL program at University of Arizona. And so I'm excited to present Clarence Zachary for the board to consider for our new Director of Finance and Operations.
Thank you.
One other thing, Todd, if I could just mention that I think added to this candidate is that he is also an Easton resident. And so he shared with us during the interview process just his own vested interest as a community member in the success of our schools.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that background. John, would you like to say anything as chair of the joint boards negotiation committees around the contracting process? Or
I don't think that there's too much to share, but I'll just say that, you know, we met and discussed a suite of compensation and benefits, went to the candidate back and forth a couple of times and landed on, I think, a reasonable number. I think it's worth noting the sort of where we landed is actually within the bounds of the sort of departing contracts, as Scott Rice's contract, and so we're not actually incurring an additional sort of any additional budget needed for the remainder of this year.
Okay. All right. So I think at this point, maybe if we wanted to do motions for each of the boards around the candidate, then we can have any other further discussion from the board members around the candidate. Be helpful.
Yep. I think Cheryl sent me a motion. If everyone is okay with it, I can put it up on my screen and I can look for a motion from Easton first. Okay. I actually do know how Zoom works. I know how to share my screen. I know everyone's doubting me now. All right, very good. All right, so look to entertain a motion from the Easton Board to accept the recommendation of the Personnel Search Committee and direct the superintendent to appoint Clarence Zachary to serve as the ER9 Director of Finance and Operations with an anticipated start date of November 11th, 2020, to assigns X as the delegate to execute.
Yeah.
Okay, Cheryl, did you have
that was deliberate? So let me tee this up a little bit. Thanks,
Sure.
John. So I figured, based on previous discussions that the boards have had separately and together, that we break this apart into either 4 possible motions so that we move forward with the candidate as agreed to, and then determine what the appropriate process would be, i.e. who's signing the contract, so that we can, again, move forward. And then I think we've also collectively agreed, perhaps it's not unanimous, but there is consensus across the tri-boards that we would revisit process accordingly at a future date. So this motion is kind of broken out potentially in 4 parts so that we can move to agree on the candidate and then get to process, i.e. again, who's signing the contract. So but I'm open to, you know, any kind of suggestion. The objective of this is just to move it forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much for putting that together. Okay, so in order to move this forward, I'm going to replace X here with assign the superintendent as the delegate to execute the contract agreed to by the ER9 Joint Negotiating Committee as between Clarence Zachary and the Easton, Reading, and Region 9 Public Schools. And 3, directs the superintendent to retain Scott Reese to provide transitional services with respect to finance and operations functions starting November 11th, 2020 at a total fee not to exceed $4,000. Such fee shall be divided among the districts in accordance with the salary of the ER9 Director of Finance. And 4, terminates the search process for the Director of Finance and Operations and dismisses the Personnel Steering Committee.
Is this going to be all one motion?
I think that was the intent, Juliet, but I think we would look for a motion on Easton, a second, and then we can discuss, or we can revise, or however we want. If we want to break it up, I think that's fine too.
Agreed. That's the intent. Yeah.
Can you decide that first? Because
it's just a sort of, I want to say like a parliamentary matter that, to sort of discuss, we need to move and then second, and then we can discuss and we can sort of decide that we want to sort of, revise this.
I heard Jeff move this motion for Easton.
I heard it too, Chris. I heard it too. I just want to make sure that Julia's comfortable. Like, this is not your last chance. Like, we can all decide we don't like putting these all together, and we can change it in a minute.
Is your screen share paused, John?
It shouldn't be. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you would change something on X. I don't. Okay.
Oh, no.
Here's my concern is, right, I'm the one I'm taking the notes for this, and I want to make sure that I put this in there correctly. So my concern would be is if we decide to go ahead and approve all 4 at the same time, that makes it very easy, right? But if we decide then that we want to go back and accept only section 1 and 3 and not 2 and 4, then we're going to have to rescind the motion and redo
Agreed.
the motion. It's all one motion. So if you propose it as 4 sections of the motion and you don't want to go forward with any of those sections, you wouldn't have to do that.
Yep. I think it's a point well made. I think we jumped into the discussion. I think Jeff moved it, and so we'd be looking for a second from Easton. If we have the same, it's possible that the motion doesn't get a first and second in the other boards.
Second.
And to be clear, it's moved in Easton with X being the superintendent.
Yes.
Correct. I'll make the motion for Reading, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second in Reading on the same motion?
I'll second.
Heather, thank you.
All right, and Region 9 for the motion.
Oh, I'm the one who moved it, so I'll move it.
All right,
I would
Cheryl.
second it as written too.
Okay, Maureen is the second. Okay, so now all boards have this out. We can discuss and decide if we want to chop it up or.
And just let me know if somebody wants me to share it again, if you need that.
Yeah, it would be helpful to see it again.
Okay. And you know what I'm going to do is just share my whole screen so I can, we can get.
Would you just email that to me?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll send it over to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You want me to do it, John, or you okay? Oh, you got it.
Done and done.
Okay.
Cool.
I've got,
Thank you.
I guess
So much.
two quick questions. One is the time frame as it relates to number 3. And then I think number 4 is just a typo, maybe. It's either the Personnel Steering Committee or the Personnel Search Committee.
Yep, that's right.
Search. Yeah, it should be search.
That's correct. So amended.
So amended for Region 9 too.
Yep, I moved the amendment.
I move the amendment for Reading.
Heather agrees.
Yes, I agree.
Right. Randy, and then you had a question on timing?
Well, just on number 3. So is there a per diem? What's included in the 4,000?
I believe we got an hourly rate, and I don't have that at my fingertips, but I suspect that Dr. Harrison or someone else in central office can get that very quickly. But we received an hourly rate quoted from Scott. Sorry.
Has Scott left the building, so to speak? He's been out as of the 30th? Okay.
Yes, and so this will be starting tomorrow. So we would need to line up the contracts or the contract with tomorrow's date as well. I would like to entertain changing the superintendent signing to the board chairs.
Okay.
I feel this is the 3rd highest paid person in the district, and it's an important person that's shared across all the boards that I think the board chair should sign for this particular role, not just the superintendent.
Okay.
would
So I
move
propose
to amend
changing
that Region 9
superintendent.
too.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Maureen.
All I was going to say, Todd, was that I would move to make that amendment at Region 9. That's fair.
Just for a point of clarification, Todd, are you saying the superintendent and the chairs, or just, this is Colleen, I'm sorry, or just the chairs?
I'm happy if the superintendent signs as well, but I would like the board chairs to sign off on it.
Got it. Okay.
Randy and Jeff, I think you made the motion. Do you agree to that amendment?
Yes, so moved.
What amendment? Is it adding the chairs or replacing with the chairs?
Adding chairs.
Adding chair.
I move the amendment for Reading, Mike, to add the chairs.
Heather?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Just make delegates, I think, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask you a point of clarification? I don't want to hold this process up, but who was it that signed the contract for Scott?
Just the superintendent.
Superintendent.
So this is a new.
Yeah, but we're not. I agree.
get
We're
it.
not setting precedent. Yeah, we just want to, make sure that everybody's comfortable with what we're doing now, and we will go back and cross our T's for the future so that we make sure we have a clear.
Right. And in previous contracts, it was board chairs.
Right.
Tom signed Scott's last one.
Right.
Yes, I think we need clarity in process. I agree,
Yeah.
but not tonight.
I think Mike's trying. I don't know
Yeah,
if you.
Mike, go ahead.
Yep.
So has someone checked with council? These seem like 4 motions in one. Are they all one motion? Do we need a separate motion for the hiring and then a separate motion for the extension of the training from the former director? This seems like you're combining them all into one, and I just want to make sure somebody made sure that was okay.
So I think the procedure for the motions is dictated by Robert's rules, and I think Robert's rules allows for this. But
you can have a multi-part motion any way you want. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. It was just a question.
Yep.
I also have a comment at some point if we're getting ready to vote. That's up to you, chairs, at your discretion.
I think so. There other comments on the motions? Is everybody okay keeping them all together?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would like to know what the hourly rate is before we vote. Is that possible, or?
I have that. It is $150 per hour.
Okay, very good.
I have a follow-up question to that. That's based on just standard rates, or how did we determine what the rate should be?
I think
It's prorated, you said?
he established what he would do the work for. He established what his rate would be.
Is that comparable to market, or how does that compare to similar work on an interim basis?
It is
higher.
I would say that it is comparable if you took the per diem rate and then looked at the number of hours that he'd be working. So he wouldn't be working a full, none of us work just 8-hour days, but it wouldn't be a full work day. It would be part of that day. And so it's really starting with the per diem rate and then kind of taking that and breaking it down to see what makes sense as an hourly rate.
But essentially the $4,000 cap, establishes that cap in terms of timing, right? So,
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's basically 3 days, right? 3 days and change, but if an 8-hour day, which it isn't, so it's basically 3 days. And everybody thinks that's sufficient for Clarence's benefit.
Realistically, what we've been told is it's going to be, half days, 3 or 4 times. I don't think we're going to approach the 4,000 even.
Okay.
Any additional comment from Easton?
Region 9, any other comment? right, Mike.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying it's not my intent to disparage the viewpoints of other board members, and I'm hopeful others will respect my right to have a differing view. I don't plan to question the specifics of the selection process at this time. However, I do feel that it was less than optimal. It has always been my hope that one day, process-wise, we will do better. But in order for that to happen, there must be a genuine intent and a commitment from the boards. I continue to have reservations related to whether the demands of this position and the expectations of the boards and the communities are clearly understood. Also, I refuse to accept the recurring practice of waiting until the 11th hour, then justifying a rush hire based upon the need to have a body in the position because it was planned poorly. I prefer to put in extra time if needed in order to achieve a desired outcome. Lack of planning and timing can't be condoned if improvement is truly the objective. Commitment requires more than lip service. Excuses are never part of the solution. They are always part of the problem. We are all aware of the challenges school administrators face in every district. However, I do not believe our communities favor prematurely escalating the salary range of this position to compensate for a compromised search process. I always strive to prioritize the best interests of the students and of our communities when making a decision of this type, but I cannot support this approach to filling the position with the contractual terms as presented.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mike. Anyone else on Region 9? All right, Reading, Chris.
Maureen was raising her hand.
Oh, sorry, Maureen.
I just wanted to take a somewhat different tack than Mike. While I agree with him that the process with respect to this candidate was less than optimal and we have to do better, I disagree with him to the extent that we need to let those impediments stand in the way of hiring what is a qualified individual who wants to work for the district. Mike just mentioned that somehow the salary was a reflection of the process and not the candidate. And on that point, I explicitly disagree. And I say that the salary that was offered this candidate is a reflection of the candidate's qualifications and a reflection of the market.
Great. Thank you, Maureen.
Todd, I'd just like to make a comment, if I may. I completely agree with Maureen's assessment with respect to the qualifications of the candidate. And I was involved in the process, and this individual is highly qualified. The compensation reflects the market and the qualifications that he'll bring to all of our districts. And while I do also agree there's an improvement in process, but don't believe it should be an impediment to us moving forward and moving forward with a candidate that is the best qualified candidate for what we need in all three districts. But I respect everyone's opinions. So.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for Region 9? Chris for Reading?
Any comments in Reading? I would just note that I agree that cohesive process and cohesive understanding of joint board governance is of critical importance to the continued cooperative governance of these three boards by these 21 board members. In fact, the concern regarding process with respect to our joint employees was raised last winter. And part of the remedy to that question was in May when we established a negotiating committee and charged it with the duty of coming up with a process for this exact purpose. So that process ought to be underway and has been delegated to that committee. And I appreciate Maureen's comments that we should not let process sandbag a very qualified candidate at this point, regardless of the merits of that argument.
Okay.
All right. Should I call the question?
I'll call the question, Ethan. Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you. Randy?
Yes.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Yes.
Thank you. Devin?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just going to check quickly to see if Jenny was able to join. I know she was having issues with a conflict. Okay, so no, I vote yes. The motion passes Easton 5-0.
Calling the question in, am I next? I think I was next.
Yes, Ready is next.
Ready.
Yes, go ahead.
Heather,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Steph, Stephanie?
It looks like she's on mute.
Yeah, she's,
I'm asking to unmute right now.
There we go. Sorry, I could not unmute. Sorry. Yes.
Chris Hawker?
Yes.
I vote yes, the motion carries 7-0.
All right, and for Region 9, the same motion. Cheryl,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Gwen,
She may have the same situation that Stephanie had. Sorry, let me see.
Yes.
Right. Oh, I see. She should. Yep.
that's a yes, Gwen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Karen,
Yes.
Mary Lee,
Yes.
Juliet,
Now,
Mike,
No.
and Tom, yes, so it carries 6-2 in Region 9. All right. So we have an action from there. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll close out that action item. Okay, then we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, board member comments. So if you just want to go around quickly, each board.
Sorry. Yeah. Easton, any comment?
No.
I'll just briefly say, as the newly minted chair of the negotiating committee, the committee charged with sort of coming up with the process, I'm not going to forget about that responsibility. And I really do take your words to heart, Mike. We need to get this right, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. So we'll fix the process and make sure that we can all be comfortable with it going forward. So that's it for me.
Chris.
board member comment in Reading. Chris Hawker?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm very unhappy with the process, and I certainly hope that, and this is going to be a discussion. There's going to be different views on this, but we need to have that and then move on so that we don't stick ourselves in this kind of situation in the future. And, what has happened is, whatever we did the last time suddenly magically, mystically becomes the precedent, which it never is because there is no firm policy. It's sort of piece to piece, and then we struggle around. So yes, I would absolutely welcome, even if I'm on the losing side of a debate, I'd rather get it settled.
Here. Colleen Pilato, I feel the same exact way. Get it down. Get it written down.
I would like to add, I agree also with Mr. Hawker, but I do want to assure the public, people who are listening, that this is an excellent candidate. And I don't think had we not been in a pandemic, we had months and months to do this and had done it exactly the same way, follow the process of the last time we did it, I think we would still be super lucky to have this person filling that role. So I certainly don't want anyone to leave with the impression that something was rushed and we ended up with someone who we're not super lucky to have.
Any other comment in Reading? I would just sort of echo a little bit of what Heather said and also say that I would not want anybody watching this process to think that it would be appropriate to impugn anybody at central office for how they carried themselves in this process from Dr. Harrison on down. Any concerns here are concerns about the way that the three boards work together and the struggles that sort of forced marriage creates from time to time, including situations like this.
All right, Region 9 board members, any comment? Mike?
So, again, I thank everyone for their comments. I think I was very careful, and I did not in any way impugn or say anything negative about the candidate in any way. And if someone misheard that, then they're mistaken. That is not what I did. I do appreciate everyone's newfound intent to kind of fix this process. I just hope that when we find ourselves in the next situation like this, that we remember it before we get here. Because as I said, it just seems like we're on the carousel. It comes back all the time, and then everyone says, oh, we're all looking for the, and so I remain hopeful, and I'm glad these meetings are recorded now, so we can go back and take a look.
Cheryl, did you have a comment as well?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I have I'm probably somewhere in the middle of all the people that just made comments. I do think a lot of this is the tri boards, which we're going to do, come up with a process that's actually written down in a policy, as opposed to defaulting to what had been common practice, or in the absence of a policy or a law that permits different applications of that policy. Writing it down is very important, so that whatever the boards decide will survive all of us serving on our respective boards. And I definitely look forward to that. And as far as how people are going to interpret this externally or even amongst ourselves, I personally just chalk this up to, in the absence of something written down as a policy, we have a difference of opinion. And I feel very hopeful that the collaboration across all our boards does not reflect this function. In fact, represents people that are very passionate about what we're doing, which is volunteer work. I look forward to working with every single one of you to make sure that we ultimately land on whatever represents the consensus view and our communities that we represent.
Hear, hear.
Anyone else from Region 9?
Echoes sort of what Cheryl just said, in that at times it appears that there was disquiet about process, and there may have been, but there really was collaboration to get to this candidate and to get to the process that was ultimately acted on when we got to this candidate. Had all those discussions been public, it would have been very clear that there were differences of opinions. But there was also a great deal of collaboration in a way that everyone who participated should be proud of. That's it.
All right. Anyone else from Region 9? Yeah, and I would just say again, it's it's tough. You get 3 boards, 21 people together. We're not all going to agree, and that's okay. I mean, we all have our own opinions, and we'll work through the process portion of it. But we don't all have to agree all the time, as long as we get to the right end result. All right, so no other comment on Region 9, then we'll move on to item 6, adjournment, and we'll start with Easton.
Do I have a motion to adjourn from Easton?
So moved.
I have second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is adjourned at 7:05 p.m.
It was Jeff and who?
It was Jeff, and then Randy, you raised your hand, correct? Yeah. See?
Recognizing Mike.
Motion to adjourn for Reading?
Is there a second in
Second.
Reading?
Second.
Heather, is there any objection? Seeing none, we're adjourned at 7:05.
All right, and for Region 9 motion,
Motion to adjourn, Karen.
Karen, second. Looking for a second. Thanks, Mike. All right. Any objection? All right. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned at 7:06. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Who was Reading again? It was Heather.
Mike and Heather.
Mike and Heather.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. See ya.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
So can I just ask one more quick question?